So the Space Marines have a new rules update, and it's good. But my question is, where's the consistency? Welcome to the first rules analysis in quite a while, and before I get into the point I want to drive home, I feel it's best to clarify my stance on the changes. They are good. You see, back in the grim darkness of the old Codex, Space Marines were a very shallow faction to play with regards to its mechanical complexity. Very simple, beginner-friendly. The introduction of combat doctrines with the 2019 Codex gave Space Marine players a system to manipulate within their toolkit, one that I praised quite highly at the time of release. But like all systems, when left too open, it can be bent or even broken. And so we have this current rules update. Simply, it takes what was a choice and forces the shift of the combat doctrines. I quite like it. Prior to this, it always felt worse to not have your doctrine bonus take effect on the first turn. This is because, generally speaking, players would park along that doctrine spectrum where you had the most buffs and just remain there until it was no longer ideal, which led to chapters with the Devastator Doctrine bonuses being able to access those perks earlier and potentially longer than the others. And now with these changes, we have a valid trade-off with regards to how quickly the Super Doctrine comes into effect, where if you have your powerful perk within the first battle round, it only lasts for one battle round. If you're a chapter with a special tactical doctrine, then you can have it for 1 to 2 turns starting at the second battle round at the earliest. And if you are an Assault Doctrine specialist, you can have it for 2 to 3 turns starting from the third round at the earliest. After arranging it on this spectrum, you can see that there is now a legitimate benefit for not being able to leverage your Super Doctrine as soon as possible, which to me makes good sense from a game mechanics perspective. This change to how doctrines function has a greater impact on chapters whose doctrine bonuses exist in the Devastator Doctrine, as you can see. With that in mind, let's look at the chapters with Devastator Doctrine bonuses and how they would theoretically leverage their perks in the previous paradigm. For the Imperial Fist, it would be making use of heavy weapons to annihilate enemy vehicles, and then switching to the Tactical Doctrine when vehicles are no longer a priority. In the case of the Iron Hands, the sheer boost to efficiency provided by Calculated Fury is staggering, resulting in units which move, going from hitting on 4s to hitting on 3s rerolling 1s. And you probably wouldn't want to switch doctrines, seeing as there are plenty of heavy weapon options that can work on both infantry and armor. And I quite like the idea of the Iron Hands' cold logic driving them towards a playstyle that understands that there is an efficiency gained from not being flexible, although I would have reined in their doctrine to affect a narrower range of units. But I digress. Returning to the topic at hand, both the Imperial Fists and the Iron Hands doctrine bonuses offer staggering boosts to their mathematical efficiency. So let's look at the Dark Angels. While in the Devastator Doctrine, all heavy and rapid-fire weapons have 6 inches extra range, and all assault and pistol weapons have an extra 3 inches of range. Plainly, this perk does not offer the mathematical efficiency to performance, similar to the previous two, and its effects apply to all ranged weapon types. I can't help but feel this doctrine trait was written with the idea in mind to stay in the Devastator Doctrine, gaining more range on all of your firearms. Since the vast majority of plasma weapons, which the Dark Angels are known for using, are rapid fire and assault, they care more about the bonus range than they do about the bonus AP. But my galaxy brain theories aside, let's objectively look at what we have here. What the Dark Angels have is a doctrine that provides utility, similar to the Ultramarines. And while utility is good, in this new paradigm where doctrines need to be proportionally more impactful at both ends of the spectrum, the Dark Angels' relentless hunt now fails to compare to that of the Iron Hands and Imperial Fists. And I suspect the Dark Angels' doctrine will struggle to provide its value in the one turn it is available. With the release of this rules update, GW demonstrated good consistency, implementing changes across all the factions which used combat doctrines. Rules consistency is great, but it needs to go both ways. For instance, why are Azrael and Dante rerolling only failed hit rolls and not all hit rolls like Calgar or the Build Your Own Chapter Masters? On that note, where are the Dark Angels and Blood Angels Chapter Master stratagems? Where is their access to the Librarius discipline? Where are the Dark Angel and Blood Angel stratagems for all the other command characters, that being Chief Librarian, Master of the Forge, Master of Sanctity, Chief Apothecary, Chapter Champion, and Chapter Ancient? Where is their stratagem to give their warlord a second warlord trait? Where is their stratagem to get more relics for 1 command point, instead of 1 extra relic for 1 command point, or a maximum of 2 extra relics for 3 command points? And the excuse of you just can't create stratagems online or through FAQs doesn't really hold water in my mind. As we can see in this very update, GW has shown they are perfectly happy to delete rules, in this case stratagems. And let's not forget that giant list of missing mechanics for the Dark Angels and Blood Angels I listed are missing from the Space Wolves as well. Or how about the Chaos Space Marines? Baseline mechanical balancing perks, things like an extra warlord trait for a character who doesn't count as your warlord and bonus relics for 1 command point, can easily be rolled out. And sure, Heretic Astartes are not the same faction as Adeptus Astartes, which I will concede. But it stands to reason that for sub-factions which are nested under the same faction, and that have already been hit by the Psychic Awakening rules wave, should be handled in a consistent manner. You can't be consistent with takes and nerfs, and selectively inconsistent with gimmies and buffs. Not in this game. Not in this game that demands more time, more money, and more passion from its user base than game systems that ask for far, far less, and are far better supported. So what I'm saying, if I'm saying anything at all, is, where is the consistency? Thanks for watching my thoughts on this Space Marines rules update. And while I have diversified the content I produce, the original push that caused me to create this channel was the observation of bizarro rules and game mechanics. And this is just one of those times. So I hope you are able to find my take on this news interesting and at least entertaining. If you have anything you'd like to add or share, feedback, comments, points of discussion, or questions, feel free to post them below. And if you want to help this channel grow, you can press that like and subscribe button. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.